Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the My Football Writer YouTube channel. And how good does it feel? Norwich City have got 3 points in the Championship for just the 5th time this season. They're unbeaten in 4 games, and they bounced back from the late heartbreak against Preston North End with a big 1-0 win over Charlton Athletic at Carrow Road. A game which was a very intriguing one, at least tactically. I think in the first half, I think Norwich really struggled. I think Charlton were just defending them really well and preventing them from playing in the central areas and trying to break quickly. Norwich were forced just to play the ball sideways a lot of that first half, and they got really frustrated and they were making mistakes. I think especially the back four were really, really struggling in that first half, but in the second half they just came alive. The introductions of Jacob Wright and Tony Springett at the interval, I will get onto that in a moment, massively helped Norwich. I think just they looked so much more hungry for the ball and to create chances. It really, to me, just emphasised how far they have come with Philippe Clement, even though he's only been here for a month now, and where they were under Liam Manning. I felt like those two halves were really how Norwich have played under their two managers this season. The first half felt like a Liam Manning performance. It was quite lacklustre. There wasn't really anything going for them. Kenny McLean had a flash shot that ended up being well saved by Kaminsky in the Charlton goal. But excuse me for wiping my nose, I've got a cold, typical in December time. But no, I think the halftime introductions massively helped Norwich. They looked so much more creative. They looked a lot more direct in the game. But then they come away with the win thanks to Jovan MAKAMA's 4th goal in 3 games, his 8th of the season. He just looks so good. Since the injury of Josh Sargent, where MAKAMA's not been able to play, MAKAMA has been involved in every single goal. Sheffield United, he scores the own goal. He then scores 2 against Southampton. He scores against Preston, and then he scores against Charlton today. Norwich have scored 5 goals in their last 4 games. He has been at the forefront of every single one of them. He's just been absolutely fantastic up top. He really just looks so hungry and so determined just to play football, and he's so strong on the ball. You look at his goal against Preston at the weekend, and then you look at his goal today. 2 very good goals. He just uses his strength and his big frame, just holds up the ball. He gets that half a second where he can get the shot in, and he scores. He hit the post as well with a very sorry, let me get my words out. A similar chance to the goal he scored against Preston, where he just has his back to goal. He turns a defender, goes across him, gets the shot in. Just superb. Really, really promising from Jovan MAKAMA, who has been massive for Norwich. If they are to stay in this division, where they're only a point off safety now, thanks to results elsewhere, they didn't really go their way. They could have got out of the relegation zone today with the teams above them losing, but it's a point off safety, albeit Portsmouth have a game in hand. Norwich can really kick on a bit now, including today, though it is 4 games in 10 days, but they can keep kicking on. They play Watford at Carrow Road on Monday. Then New Year's Day, it's QPR away. So some tough matches coming up for them, but who's to say that they can't keep getting points, because they are playing really, really well as of late. But yeah, let's talk about the game overall now, rather than, well, I say a quick sort of rundown of the game, 4 minutes, but somewhat quick. First off, again, sorry about nose wiping. It's just going to keep happening. I know it's not very sightly and it's a little bit minging, but hey ho, what more can I do? I think the team selection, first of all, intrigued me. Mate Jurasek and Anis Slimane being brought into the team in place of Mankwa Forson and Jacob Wright. I didn't really get the reasoning for that, apart from of course, as I mentioned a moment ago, Norwich have 4 games in 10 days, including today. So maybe there's where Philippe Clement wants to rest players. He wants to change it up a little bit, and he can see where his players are in terms of fitness in all those games and who he should select and what his best team is going into every single match. But it was a really interesting one. I don't think Slimani has started, I want to say, since maybe March or April of this year, when he was playing last season under Johannes Torap. Mate Jurasek getting a start. That's a really interesting one again, and it just not the most promising first half performance. Didn't really get involved with all too much of the play. He was trying, but nothing really was going for him, in all honesty. And it just continues this saga for Jurasek of Norwich spent a fair bit of money on him, and they're just not getting any return on investment whatsoever. He just doesn't look like he's hungry enough, or that he's maybe bothered enough to play and help Norwich get points and score himself some goals and get himself some confidence, because it just doesn't seem that he is properly, as I just said a moment ago, I don't think he's very determined. And I think confidence would do him a world of good, because he's playing like a player who hasn't got it. And you can perhaps understand, because every time he's given a chance, he's not really impressing. And then it's him and Slimane who get subbed off at half time for Jacob Wright and Tony Springett. And I think the game was crying out for Jacob Wright massively. I think the first half, there was no creativity from either side. I mean, the game ended with Charlton having not a single shot on target and 4 shots overall. But really, even Norwich in the first half just couldn't get going. That they couldn't go through the gears. They were stuck in first gear. They just couldn't get into that second one, and they were just being really, really frustrated by Charlton's defence. But the introduction of Wright completely changed that. Norwich they were then able, as I mentioned a minute ago, they couldn't play through the middle of the pitch, but Wright allowed them to do that. Just was dropping into the central areas, getting his head up, trying to then spray passes out wide or play it through for MAKAMA. Just really, really rejuvenated the Norwich attack and helped them just get a bit more spark, a bit more creativity in their game. And as for Tony Springett, I mean, I'll hold my hands up. At half time, I genuinely started shaking my head when I saw he was being subbed on. But it must be said, in his last 2 performances with Preston, well, after he came on as a sub, and this second half against Charlton, I mean, it says it all when fans are singing his name loud and proud for the last 15 minutes of the game, saying there's only one Tony Springett and Norwich are walking in a Springett wonderland. I think that's all you need to know about the sort of impact and performance Springett put in. I think reminded me a lot of, well, I say reminded me a lot of people around me, I should say, were talking about maybe comparisons with Darren Huckabee. Of course, Springett is at the moment nowhere near the level of performer Darren Huckabee was, but he's really just looked very direct, just got his head down, was running down the wing, trying to play intricate little passes, get crosses into the box. He had a really, really promising performance, it must be said. And he did against Preston as well. It looks like maybe, just maybe, there's something being unlocked here with Tony Springett, who's been at the club for a long time. And he mentioned in an interview with Chris Gorham after the Preston match about how he's had spine surgery, he was out for 18 months, and he had loan spells with Northampton and Derby. They didn't really work out, and he didn't really get the form or statistics of goals and assists that maybe he would have wanted or Norwich would have wanted. But really promising from Springett in that second half, really direct, just an old school winger was what he was playing like, sprinted down the wing, was looking to create chances. And in the latter stages, he just entered the dark arts a little bit, was holding the ball up in the corner, using his body, trying to win fouls and throw-ins, and that's what really worked as well for Norwich, because when the 3 minutes of added time came up, I thought, well, it's not 5 minutes, maybe they won't concede too late. But you never know with this Norwich team. They've done it a few times already this season, but they dug deep and they sat deep and defended really well in the latter stages, especially in added time. Just kept booting the ball away as far from their goal as possible. And that's a first clean sheet since the 30th of August. I think that's the biggest thing from this game. Norwich didn't concede, let alone a goal. They didn't give up a shot on target. That is huge for a team like Norwich, who have conceded 35 goals this season. That is really, really big. And it shows a lot to the defence that they can do it. They can keep clean sheets. They can be tight at the back and maybe limit teams to chances. And in all honesty, I don't mean any disrespect to Charlton here by not really speaking about them much, but I really didn't think they were anything special at all. I thought they were really poor, really, really poor side, in all honesty. And after I was watching, I was at the game today, after the first 15 minutes, I was saying to people around me, Norwich, we should be winning this game. Really, we should be, because Charlton are nothing special. They've got nothing going forward, and they didn't. Hence why they didn't have a shot on target. They really just looked devoid of any ideas when they got forward. They didn't really seem like they knew what to do with the football when they got in these attacking opportunities. But in all honesty, I think that's maybe credit to the Norwich defence, who, even though they were sometimes getting caught out a little bit on the break with counter-attacks, they got back and they sat deep, they defended well. I have to say, Kovacevic didn't have a save to make, but I think that's the most convincing he's looked with crosses into his penalty area, was coming off his line for them, catching them, claiming them well. think there was one off a corner where he just went up to punch it and he missed the ball. But apart from that, he barely had anything to do. He might as well have stayed at home eating his Christmas leftovers this Boxing Day because he had nothing to do in between the sticks. But no, a really big result again for Norwich. They're unbeaten in 4 games now. It's 2 wins in 3 games. Maybe should have been 3 wins in a row with the Preston result, and you could argue 4 wins in a row with the Amankwa-Forson miss against Sheffield United in the last minute. But Norwich are really looking rejuvenated. That's the big thing since Philippe Clement has come in, bar his first game against Birmingham City where they lost 4-1. Norwich look reinvented. They just look so determined and adamant that they're going to get the ball and they're going to fight and they're going to keep the ball, and they're just running around all game. Philippe Clement said he wants this squad to be the fittest in the league with how they were running about the whole game and winning tackles and just putting everything into it when they got forward and everyone coming back. I don't think that maybe they are one of the fittest teams in the league, but they're definitely getting up there. They look a lot more organised and just so much more of a threat sometimes with Philippe Clement than they ever did with Liam Manning. It really does baffle me as to how different all these players look. And compared to the Manning times, it really just amazes me that these are the same bunch of players who had that dreadful run of form with Liam Manning, and they didn't win a game from the 30th of August until his sacking, and even a couple more games after that. But it shocks me that these are the same individuals who were in that team and looked like they never knew what they were doing. They didn't look like they had ideologies and didn't have performances of like today where they can grind it out a bit and get a result even when it looks like maybe they're going to be frustrated, but they found a way. And that's the big thing. Norwich do look a transformed team, and they're a point off safety now. Just if they can keep getting some more points over the next few days, they could get out of the relegation zone. They can begin to kick on. We're now officially halfway through the season. Norwich have now played 23 matches, including today. They've got 23 more games and 69 more points to play for. Not to say they're going to get all 69 or they'll get anywhere near that, because that's just unrealistic. But they certainly can make a case that once next season comes into play, if they are to stay up and they go on a good run of form, they get around mid-table or lower mid-table, it could be signs that with a full season under Philippe Clement and the right players for him and his system, Norwich could be a bit of a threat in the Championship next season, maybe for the rest of this season as well. We don't know what they'll do in the January window, of course, but they look good. And that's what's important. Another big win for them at Carrow Road. Philippe Clement again wins at Carrow Road. He's yet to win away from home, but the home form is completely turned around with him as it was opposed to Liam Manning. So that's brilliant. 3 home wins now for Norwich this season. That's 3 home wins in a row as well. They're unbeaten in form. MAKAMA's got 4 goals in 3 games, and it's starting to look very nice. It was a late Christmas present from the Canaries on Boxing Day, but fans can go home. They can be happy with that, and confidence can be up high. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Me and the rest of the team will try hard to look through them and keep up the discussion with you in the comments section. Make sure you check out all of our social media pages and also videos on the channel if you've missed them as of late. But if you're new around here and you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it. If you didn't, fair enough. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that red button. It doesn't cost anything, and you can enjoy some Norwich City content, especially if you're a Norwich fan, because they're starting to look a little bit better as of late. It's goodbye for now. We'll see you in the next video of ours.